Tshwane University of Technology's Institute for the Future's Work is set to host a two-day national dialogue on the future of work from the 19th to the 20th of this month. The event is aimed at addressing the most pressing and the most important issues pertaining to the changing nature of work in the 21st century, from technology to automation. Now, to help us understand what the event is about in more detail, I'm joined in studio by Tseliso Mohlomi, who's the Senior Director of the Institute of the Future of Work. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us in studio.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the studio.
Now, you've been sitting here as I was speaking to my colleague Ziniko Mhlaba, who's out at the schools of specialization who are hosting this big event. Young people in high school talking and about the future of work. I mean, they're getting first-hand experience in sports science and maritime, looking at the various industries, which is painting a different picture from the traditional way of learning. Talk to us about the importance of your dialogue and some of the issues that you'll be touching on.
Thank you so much. I am from the Tshwane University of Technology, yes. Which is the biggest contact university in the country, because at any given time, TUT has over 60 to 65,000 students, and mostly coming from previously disadvantaged communities, and which actually basically mean that basic education that they would have received might not have prepared them for university. And then you will then find that through the university, what they would then receive does not necessarily prepare them for the work. And therefore, the university decided to come with a concept called the Institute for Future of Work. And the purpose of the Institute for Future of Work is to close the gap between the university and the industry. And the reason is that over the years, there have been a chasm that has opened between the two, the industry and the university. Now, the university is supposed to produce, a cohort of labor, which unfortunately, when they finish and then they're supposed to go get work, they do not get it because there is a skills misalignment, or even like the curriculum that they would have been given would be a wrong curriculum. So TUT is then saying, let us collaborate with the industry in order to understand what the industry wants so that we can influence the curriculum and produce what we call a future-ready graduates. Now, when we speak about future-ready graduates, these are not necessarily those people that would be going looking for jobs. Yeah. But this should be people that, one, when they finish their university, they need to be able to get into the labor market and contribute meaningfully. The second aspect is that these are the people that when they finish the university, they would have the capability of starting a small enterprise, which would also create more jobs. Now, coming to your question around the dialogue, we are then saying the industry, the academia, government, civil society, and the international development agencies need to contribute to the discourse around the future of work. Because as a country, as a continent, we actually have a serious skill deficit. And that on its own then would then contribute to joblessness and losing jobs. Now, what the dialogue is going to be looking at is what are the technologies that we are having, the implications of technology on the current jobs and the future jobs. Then we would then be saying, how do we then, one, develop curriculum that will be able to reskill the current workforce? And the second aspect, to make sure that the future workforce is ready for that. And we want to influence policy discourse, we want to influence the curriculum design, but we also want to build the foundation where the academia and the industry will work together to pull the country out of the doldrum of unemployment. Yeah.
As you talk about the whole model and the concept behind this, the industries that, when you hear future, you're thinking technology. Technology playing a huge role within the various industries. How much preparedness do you think that there is? I mean, you speak about this at university level, preparing young people and nurturing them towards this future of work. But the industries within themselves, how much work do you think is being done within the industry as you and I speak to prepare for that future?
The industries are actually miles ahead. I have engagement with the captains of the industry, the CEOs. You might find that in their plans, they are already thinking about the technology they're going to use in the future.
Yeah.
And that discussion they are having needs to feed into the curriculum of the university. Because, for example, let's say BMW is looking at a new technology they're going to be using in 2030. As the university, we need to walk that path with them. And in walking that path with them, it means that now we are preparing our students for that.
And a lot of the talk is around the jobs of today not being relevant in a few years' time. So if that is the case, what does it mean for the current workforce? I mean, is the current workforce under threat of any sort?
One of the things when people speak about the 4IR, speak about technology, there is that fear that the jobs are going to be lost. In preparing for this dialogue, I was engaging different sectors. And one of the sectors that I engaged, they said, actually, we are going to lose the jobs. My question was, yes, we can foresee that. How do we then prevent that?
Yeah.
And basically, with the dialogue, we are then saying, let's put our heads together and make sure that by the time when that arrives, those people might not actually have lost their jobs. And speaking to one of the industry, they actually spoke about moving people from blue-collar positions into the white-collar positions through reskilling and upskilling. So those are the things that we're going to be looking at. One of the things around the education that we are talking about, we said, let's look at basic education. Gauteng is doing a great job whereby they are starting to teach the kids the new skills at that level. That means when they arrive at the university and going forward, they are ready. And so we said, let's look at education and what we call the skills conundrum. Yeah. That we are having, skill and talent conundrum. And so those are the things that we're going to be looking at with the experts and also with the industry and to try and find solutions. And this is not just a talk shop because we also want to challenge the industry. For example, some of our university might not have the equipments that are being used in the industry. We are then saying to the industry, let's work together, give our students opportunities, and allow them to learn and use these machines before they leave the university so that when they leave, they are ready to serve.
Some have said that the future of work is actually right now, as you and I speak, because of the very harsh lessons that the coronavirus pandemic has taught us. I mean, it's reshaped the economy and the entire labor force. And we've experienced major shifts already, how we work, where we work, and what technologies we use to actually work, and also looking at who we work with. So what are these jobs of the future that we're talking about, these jobs of the future that are making the current labor force think that they may not be part of the future?
You are right. Sometimes when we talk about the future, we are thinking about next week, next month, but the future is today.
Yeah.
And technology is upon us. The fourth industrial revolution have long been coming. And it has changed how we work, and it has changed how we view work. And not only through your machine learning, automation, and all other aspects, or even the processes about where one is supposed to work, working remote or coming to the office. At the end of the day, it has to shape our thinking. And it also ought to shape the thinking of the current labor force. I could be sitting here today having a job, and then tomorrow it might not be there. The question would then be, what do I do? So we are trying to then answer to that, to then be saying that people need to be reskilled, and people need to think how they upskill themselves. So you can, as an individual, we want to be able to assist you. And then we can only do that in partnership with the industry, in partnership with government, and other partners.
So these jobs, where do they lie? I mean, there's the various industries, and within those industries, there are opportunities that speak to the future.
I was reading a paper on what you call the social economy. And within the social economy, you are talking about education, you're talking about health. And those are the jobs that they used to be the low-hanging fruit. And with the changing nature of work, you find that most of the people that used to do that work do not get jobs. Yeah. When I arrived at the university, I met a student who had studied BTech engineering, and she had taught herself coding. And she was working in our virtual reality studio as a coder. And I said to her, why did you do it? She said, I realized that with the qualification that I have, I was not going to get employment. Then I went online and then started finding out about coding and programming. She's one of the best at the moment, and one of the companies actually came and got her. Yeah. Because she has basically anticipated that the degree she has was not going to give her a job, or even if it gave her a job, it could have actually ended.
Forecasting then is a very important part of this entire shift and change, because we're also learning that gaming is a career.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's very critical.
So, you know, with the discussions and the dialogue, what sort of challenges lie as you try and navigate through these big changes?
The biggest challenge is, one, we anticipate job losses. We are already losing jobs as a country. And now the question is, how do we stop that bleeding? And so that is basically what we are trying to say. How do we work together to stop the country bleeding jobs? One. Two, how do we also make sure that in the future we have a cohort, not of only students, but a cohort of a labor force that is capable? And also to move away from the thing that you go to university to get employed. Most of the universities around the world are starting to create entrepreneurs instead of creating employers. And then so we are then saying to the industry, assist us in that as well. Because if we create entrepreneurs, they would need a market. And the market is the industry. And so those are the discussions that we are trying to say. Let's work together, the academia and also the industry, to make sure that we assist the country to be ready for the future.
So how are you going to then now change perceptions? Because it also requires a shift in what you perceive university to be all about.
It's going to take a while, but it can be done. Yeah. And so, one, we have to bring the industry into the fore, because some of the university students, they would say, I want to be an engineer. And but they have never been in any engineering environment, and so we are then saying to the industry, assist us to change the perception. And so we are not only going to be engaged in the industry, we will also be working with the faculties in the university to change that perception.
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming in studio and speaking to us about this, the future of work. Speaking there to Tseliso Mohlomi, Senior Director at the Tshwane University of Technology, speaking there about the big changes and what it will take to ensure that the future is indeed recognized right now, and the changes that need to come with it are also within the changing wheels.